Hi, in this training, we will be going over the Sonar 101. When you first log into Sonar, the market dashboard will be your landing page. The market dashboard is housed under the applications. We have 5 different applications, and on this call, we will be reviewing the market dashboard at the end of the call. As you can see at the top, we now have a different way to lay out all of your global pages and your custom views. The global pages are going to be pages created by our market experts. You do have the ability to view any of the data on there, but you don't have the ability to edit any of it. So if you would like one of those pages to be on your custom pages so that you can edit it, please let your customer success manager know and they can rebuild it for you and share that link with you. Under your custom pages, these are all pages that will either be created by you or will be sent to you through a Sonar link. And I'll be going over those in just a second. The chart feature now is up at the top. You can click on this chart button and it will take you directly to a chart widget. You have the ability to add any chart data sets that you would like. And once you search it, it will populate. You also have the ability to screenshot by clicking this little camera icon. It will screenshot it and go into your downloads, and you can use it to post on social media or anywhere that you would want to use a screenshot. On this chart widget specifically, you don't have the ability to save this on a custom page. So this is really just to be used for a quick search, something like that. But if you want it to be saved for future reference, always make sure you create a custom page and add that chart on there. Over on the right, you'll see the tools. We do have a knowledge center. So if you click on that, it will take you to the knowledge center. We also have a chat feature. So if you're ever inside of Sonar and have a question, you can reach out to us directly through the chat feature. It comes to our entire customer success team, and we normally get back to you within about 30 minutes, depending on the time of day. So let me go ahead and go into the US summary. So on this page, you'll see the outbound tender volume index. We are receiving this information from about 150 TMS and EDI partners. So what you're seeing here is the volumes in the country day over day. This is an indexed value as of January 2018. So the number doesn't necessarily matter. It's more important to pay attention to the change of that number over time. So if you're looking at the current value, which is at 11,660, that just means there's more volumes shipping today than there was on January 2018. So it just kind of lets you know a reference point in regards to what's happened in the past. On this chart, you'll see the past 4 years overlaid as well as the current year. So the current year is all the way over here. Since we haven't made it to the end of the year yet, you can see that it hasn't completed that line. To kind of figure out which years are associated with which color line, you can see the colored boxes right here that will let you know. So green is going to be 2022. The yellow is going to be 2021. This blue line will be 2020, and 2019 will be this orange line. This value is updated on a daily basis. It is on a 7-day rolling average to account for holidays and weekends and to account for that waterfall tendering theory of freight. This information is also updated as of yesterday. So you're able to see the volumes that are shipping in the country as of yesterday and really get a good picture of that demand for capacity. When looking at this data set, again, it will show you the demand for capacity. So when there is an increase in volume, you can expect that there will be more, obviously, demand for capacity. To kind of give you a picture of how to use this chart on a daily basis, you can kind of see right here during 2020, there was a huge increase in volumes during the panic buying of the pandemic. And then once the lockdowns occurred, there was no volumes shipping. And then as the lockdown slowly opened back up, you can see during 2020, the blue line rapidly increases and stays highly elevated all throughout last year and all throughout 2021. The beginning of 2022 in March, you can see the volume started to drop off. Warehouses were restocked and things like that. So there wasn't as much demand for capacity during that time. Volumes have continued to drop off and kind of move a little bit in the upward trend, though, throughout the last part of this year. The next chart I'm going to show you is the rejection. So this is going to show you the actual percent of freight that's being rejected in the country right now. When you're looking at this, you can think of this as the carrier sentiment towards the marketplace. If they are rejecting more freight, they're feeling some type of tightening in the marketplace. They're feeling like there's better options. there's a lot of different reasons why freight can be rejected, but this is going to give you the percentage of freight currently. So right now we're at 3.73% of loads are being rejected. If you think of that in the reverse or inverse, about 97% of loads that are being tendered out right now are being accepted. Again, this is on a daily update as of yesterday. So you're able to see as of yesterday how much freight is being rejected. And again, I have the past 4 years overlaid. So again, the green line is going to be last year. 2021 is the yellow line. This blue line is going to be 2020. And then orange is going to be 2019. Again, during those COVID volume spikes, you can see the rejections followed, most likely because there wasn't enough capacity in the marketplace to account for the amount of demand that there was. During the lockdowns, obviously rejections dropped off. And then as those volumes increased over the next 6 months, you can see the rejections followed. The rejections stayed very highly elevated all throughout 2021. And then as those volumes dropped off in 2022, the rejections followed. To take it one step further and to kind of show you how they correlate, on this chart, you'll see the outbound tender volume compared to the outbound tender rejection. And you can kind of see how they correlate with each other and how you can use them together to make a more informed decision on what might be happening in the marketplace. So you can see again, during 2020 and 21, the volumes were highly elevated and the rejections were right along with it. At the beginning of 2022, the volume started to drop off and the rejections tanked as well. You can kind of expect them to move pretty closely together and be very highly correlated. Most likely the reason why the volumes dropped off, but the rejections dropped off a lot more is because there was so much capacity that was added to the marketplace throughout 2021. So many drivers and new trucks and new fleet drivers were added to the marketplace. So the rejections dropped off a lot more drastically just due to the fact that there was a lot more available capacity. Now, when looking at rejections, these are a great leading indicator on what might happen on the spot market. So on this chart, I have the outbound tender rejection index, which is this blue line. And the green line I have compared to it is the national truckload index. This is coming from our track contributors, which I'll go into a little bit more in depth on the market dashboard. But this is showing you the current spot market price for a van in the country. This is just the average of that price, and it does include fuel. So $234 is the average price right now in the country for a van. Again, you can see right now that we're at 3.73%. That's the current value of our tender rejection. But you can kind of see they are very highly correlated as well. But the National Truckload Index is delayed when responding to the rejections. The reason that we say that rejections are the leading indicator is because when those loads are being rejected, the customer is going to have to find other means to get that load accepted. So when their freight is being rejected, they'll most likely have to go down their waterfall tender and go to number 2, 3, 4, or they're going to have to go to the spot market. So when freight is rejected, it's not normally picking up same day. It's normally picking up within the next couple of days. So those rates might not be affected for the next couple of days. So when you're seeing rejections starting to increase in a specific market, let's say Atlanta, for example, and you're noticing that day over day, those rejections continue to increase, but you're not really seeing an effect on the price, most likely you'll see that effect within the next couple of days. That's kind of just the way that it works with the way that freight is tendered. Everything that I've been showing you has included all 3 equipment types, so van, reefer, and flatbed. But you do have the ability to break it out by equipment type specific. If you want to look at reefer rejections or only flatbed rejections, you can do that. So looking on this chart, this blue line down here, the 3.37 is the van rejections. The other blue line is going to be the reefer rejections at about 8.24. And then the flatbed is going to be 8.82. So that's the green line. Just due to the fact that flatbed freight is not normally tendered electronically, we only break out the flatbed rejections on a national level. So you can look up flatbedrejections.usa, but for van and reefer, you can break those out on a market level. So if you wanted to look at reefer rejections for Atlanta and compare them to the van rejections, you do have the ability to do that. You would just type VOTRI or ROTRI. That's how you break out those equipment types. And then we did take it a little bit further for even more diagnosis in what's going on in a specific market by looking at the length of haul. So we have 5 different length of hauls, and the way that we break them out is by local, short, mid haul, tweener, and long haul. So on this chart, this blue line down here is the local length of haul, which is anything under 100 miles. This other blue line is going to be the short haul, which is 100 to 250 miles. The green line is going to be the mid haul, which is 250 to 450 miles. The orange is going to be the tweener length of haul, which is 450 to 800 miles. And then this purple line is going to be the long haul, which is anything over 800 miles. The reason that we like to look at this is you can see most of the time throughout the past couple of years, the tweener length of haul has been the most rejected length of haul. That is normally because of the driver utilization on those length of hauls. They don't have the best utilization for drivers' hours. So normally the driver might be able to make it in one day, but the appointments are set for 2 days or vice versa. So when carriers have better options in the marketplace, they're going to start to reject those not so appealing length of hauls. So, of course, during COVID, there was a lot of volumes shipping. So you can see that that was definitely the most rejected length of haul. As I go in a little bit further, if I look at 3 months, you can see the tweener length of haul has still stayed pretty much at the most rejected length of haul, even though we're at a very low tender rejection in the country. And the reason that this is going to kind of show you what's happening in a specific market. So if I was looking at a length of haul again for like Atlanta, and I wanted to see maybe what's affecting that tender rejection increasing or decreasing, I could look at the length of hauls and decide what other people might be feeling. So if you see the tweener length of haul is being rejected more so, that means there's probably better options coming out of that market. So they're not having to accept that length of haul. There might not be a driver available for that length of haul. Of course, there's different reasons why the load might be rejected, but this will kind of give you more insights into what might be happening. The local length of haul is normally the least rejected just because you can normally do more than one of those in a day. But that tweener length of haul is really going to help you diagnose a specific market. So if you do have an RFP maybe from a customer and you've never run from that market before, then this would definitely be some diagnosis that I would use when trying to figure out how to quote or price that specific lane. So that is it for the US summary page. Now I'm going to go into my head haul index. So the head haul index is going to show you the load balance in specific markets. So I have the map widget pulled up on the left side, and then I have the chart over here on the right side. On the map, I have just the general head haul index showing. That's going to include all equipment types, so van, reefer, and flatbed. And the way that we derive this index is by just subtracting the outbound tender volume from the inbound tender volume. So that will either cause a positive number or a negative number. Atlanta, for example, is at a -5 right now. And so you can see that the head haul index is red on the map. A red market indicates that there's more inbound volume than there is outbound volume. A blue market is going to indicate that there's more outbound volume than inbound volume. So when looking at this map, if you are a broker, the red markets are going to be great for you. That's where you're going to have the buying power. There's going to be more inbound freight. You can think of inbound freight as drivers delivering into that market, getting empty and needing to be reloaded. And you can think of outbound volume as loads available on a dock. So when there's more inbound volume than outbound volume, that's great for brokers and shippers because they'll have the buying power there. There are more trucks available than there are loads. When looking at the blue markets, you'll know there's more outbound volume than inbound volume. So there's more freight coming out than drivers coming in. So if you are a carrier and you're going into a blue market, you'll have the buying power in that market and most likely for sure get your driver reloaded because there's more freight than there is drivers available. The reason I have it pulled up over here on the chart is so that you can kind of see which one is shifting that number to be positive or negative. So Atlanta market throughout the years goes back and forth. Normally it is a head haul market, which means that it's a positive number, but it looks like in the past couple of months, it's shifted and become more of a back haul market. If I go into about a 3-month view, you can kind of see how Thanksgiving affected the volumes in that market. But throughout the past couple of months, it has gone back and forth between being a head haul and a back haul market. And this information is important for you to know because, of course, rates change on a daily basis. So if you have spot market freight coming out of Atlanta, it can definitely shift on a daily basis on who has that buying power. So it's important to pay attention to both of them separately and see which one's changing more rapidly. So you can kind of see right here, December 3rd, there was a huge drop off in the amount of volume that was coming out. And during that time, there was a decrease in the amount of drivers coming in, but it wasn't as rapidly. So that's what's causing that big change and probably making it more of a backhaul market. And drivers are not having that buying power as much as they probably would have at the probably summertime. If I go back to 6-month view, you can see during July and August, there was a lot more freight coming out of Atlanta than there was drivers coming in. So if you had a driver in that market during that time, you probably had a little bit more negotiation strength than you would right now. You do have the ability to look at these on a reefer and a van specific as well. So as I hover over, this is going to be the reefer head haul index. You can see it's a little bit different. Each market trends a little bit different when it's van or reefer. And then this is the van specific one. We do have this page available on the Knowledge Center. So if you do want to add this custom page to your Sonar, just go ahead and click on the user guide, and then you'll see pre-built pages. Once you click on that link, it will just copy into your custom pages and you'll have the ability to look at these. So that is it for the head haul. Now I'm going to go one step further and look at the capacity trend. So the capacity trend takes into account volumes, which we were just looking at on the head haul, but it also takes into account rejections happening in that market. So on the right side on this watch list, I have the capacity trend score. This score is on a scale from 1 to 100. The higher the number, the tighter the market. So anything really above 60 is kind of our threshold that we pay attention to. That is going to be a carrier favored market. There's going to be tight capacity available in those markets, and the carriers will have the buying power there. As I scroll down, really anything below 40 is going to be a broker or a shipper favored market, and those are going to have loose capacity, a lot of available capacity in those markets. Looking at the actual value is important, but actually looking at the change is a little bit more important. This number is updated on a daily basis as of yesterday, so you're able to see how capacity is shifting on a daily basis. So for Mobile, Alabama, for example, you can see it's gone up 12 points in one day. So it has increased 12 points, which means it's becoming tighter. It's still a 37, so it's below 40, so it's a broker favored market, but it is becoming tighter. So if you have Mobile freight on a daily basis, weekly basis, that would be something I would pay attention to. If it continues to go up, that means it's tightening up even more. So your rates might get a little bit tighter as well. Now, when looking at one that is decreasing, so let's go up to a higher number. You can see Tulsa, Oklahoma is at a 59, and it's decreased 7 points in one day. So about a 10% change. So it's becoming looser. It's still a 59, so close to 60. So yesterday it was actually above 60. Now it's below 60, but it's still a tighter market, but it's loosening up. So again, if you have freight coming out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, again, something to watch to see how it changes day over day and how that might affect your revenue or your margin for that specific origin. Over here on the map, I have the capacity trend direction. It looks very similar to the head haul index, but this is showing the directional change of capacity in each market. This is van specific. We do have it broke out for reefers, but what I'm showing you here is van specific. So if you're looking at a market such as Atlanta, Georgia, which is at a +2, it's becoming tighter. It's more difficult to secure capacity out of that market. If you're looking at a red market, it's loosening up. It's becoming easier to secure capacity. This is looking at the 4-week change for those markets. So Jackson, Mississippi has become looser in the past month, but Atlanta has become tighter. So any of those blue markets are becoming more difficult to secure capacity out of, and red is looser, easier to secure capacity out of those markets. Of course, the darker the box or the market, the more change there has been, or the brighter blue, the more change there has been. Now going into the market dashboard, I'm going to go back up to applications and click on market dashboard. So the market dashboard has the ability to show you van and reefer rates on a single lane search. So you would just type in your origin. So I will do Seattle to Chicago and choose my equipment type. I'm going to keep it on van, and then I'm just going to click search. That's going to populate everything down below. It will populate our track spot rates and our contract rates, as well as some other insights that I'll go through. So after you search it, you can see the lane right here. You can see that equipment type, and then you can see the miles that we are calculating. You have the ability to change it to a rate per mile if that's how you prefer to look at rates, or you can keep it at flat. Whichever one you choose will be saved the next time you log in. Of course, you can always switch back and forth. So going into our track spot rates, these are rates that are being contributed to us from about 30 broker customers that we have. TRAC stands for Trusted Rate Assessment Consortium, and these are rates that are updated on a daily basis. They are rates paid to carriers from brokers. So you can think of this as obviously the rate to the truck. You'll see the current, which is our average, and then the low and the high for that specific lane that you've searched. You can also see the 7-day average and the 28-day average for that lane, as well as how those have changed over time. Over here on the confidence score, you can kind of think of the confidence score as more of a volatility score. A 4 or a 5 means that it's not a very volatile lane. There's not a lot of shifting as far as the rate. A 1 or a 2 means that there is a lot of volatility surrounding that specific lane and the rate. And if you're not as confident with that lane, you haven't run it on a regular basis, then maybe you will quote closer to the high end. But if you're very confident and you see that the confidence score is a 4 or a 5, you may quote lower on the low end so that you are able to secure that load. Down here in this black box, you'll see the origin radius, destination radius, the volume, and the time window. This is all displayed because we have a 525 rule. Since these are coming from contributors, we want to make sure that you're not getting information from just one brokerage. So we have a 525 rule, which just means that for every lane, we have to have 5 or more contributors. Not one of those contributors can account for more than 25% of that load. So you're getting a dense amount of data. So in order to meet that rule, we had to go out 130 miles from the origin, 133 from the destination, and back 9 days in order to meet that rule. These are weighted though, so anything booked closer to the origin or closer to the destination and loads that were booked yesterday or the day before are going to be more heavily weighted towards these rates than loads that were booked farther out and farther back in time. So just keep that in mind when using this information. Below that, you'll see the contract rates. These are coming from a freight payment processing company, and these are updated on a weekly basis. So they're only updated on Monday mornings. So if you search the same lane every single day, the rates will not change. You can see the current low and high as well for the contract rates. And then we also have that confidence score. So the confidence score, again, the higher it is, the more confident and less volatile that lane is. The lower the number, the more volatile and the less confident we are in that specific rate. We have the same information right here, the origin radius, destination radius, volume, and time window, but these are going to be derived from a 325 rule. So we have to have 3 or more contributors and not one of them can account for more than 25%. So again, we had to go back 116, or we had to go out 116 miles, 159 miles, and we had to go back 53 days. So this seems like a larger day period, and that's because this is updated on a weekly basis. So you can kind of think of this more like weeks. You could just take 53 and divide it by 7, and that's how many weeks back we had to look. Again, they are weighted though, so anything booked closer to the origin, destination, and time window are going to be more heavily weighted than loads that were booked further out and farther back in time. Down here on the chart, you can see the history of the rate over time. And as you hover over, you'll see that band. The band is going to show you the high and the low and then the average. So you can kind of see how the average line is trending. So of course, the contract rates, this is a great example. There was a huge difference between the high for the contract rates during this time than there was for the low. The average rates were quoting a little bit closer to the low rate, but there was some outliers that made it all the way up to about $3,400. Same with the spot market rates. It kind of gives you a reference on where maybe to start quoting when you are on the phone, maybe with a driver, or if you're on the phone with your customer or on a spot board. It kind of lets you know the reference point of where you might need to start your negotiations. So right here during November, you can kind of see the average rate was a little bit closer to that low than it was to the high. So if you're very confident in that lane specifically, you might start around the low rate and work your way up to that average or a little bit closer to the high. Just kind of gives you a reference point. We also have the ability to save lanes. So if this is a lane that you run on a regular basis, you have the ability to save it below. I already have this one saved, so that's why it's grayed out. But if it wasn't grayed out, you would have the ability to click on that save lane. It would save it below, and then you have the ability to just quickly click on it and update all of the information without having to type it in. You can also delete them if you don't need that one anymore, but you can save up to 1,500 lanes in here. This new feature, the search feature, so you can actually type in the origin or the destination and search through those loads specifically. So if you have a lot of freight coming out of Ringgold, Georgia, going to different locations, you could type in Ringgold and then just quickly filter through. Below that, we do have the margin calculator. On the input, we have 4 different input options. So if you guys have different ways that you calculate your margin, click through here and select the one that works best for you. The amount for any of these is able to be edited. So if you want to be at a 7% margin, you can change that amount. And then if you're wanting to use the high rate, you can change it to the high or the low or keep it at current. And then if you have different miles from your customer, you have the ability to change those here. And then once you click calculate, it will populate below with whatever your margin was that you wanted to look at. So the rate per mile is going to be the current rate per mile that you have selected. The flat rate is obviously going to be that times the miles. The margin is going to be what you would make if you had 7%. So you'd make $251. And then the sell price is kind of, think of that as what you would take to the customer. And then this would be the sell rate per mile. And then this would be the margin percentage that you inputted. You can obviously change these and recalculate them however you would like. And then under that, we have the lane insights. So this is showing you the capacity lane score. So remember, I just went over that on that capacity page. So anything above 60 is a carrier favored market. So right now, Seattle to Chicago is a 70. So this is a carrier favored lane. The origin and destination capacity is a day over day change. So currently there hasn't been any change for the origin or for the destination. And this prescriptive action just kind of puts it in layman's terms. Load balance is tight, which is from that 70. And there's been no change in capacity, which is where this is derived from. And then down here on the map, you can see the lane, the origin, and the destination. And then these circles on the lane are going to be for the origin radius and then the destination radius for the contract rates. So that's how you're able to see that information. That is it for the Sonar 101. I hope this was a beneficial training video for you. If you do have any additional questions, please reach out to your customer success manager, or you can email cs@freightwaves.com. Thank you so much.